Hello, hello. Welcome to the Elev8 project. Good morning. For those of you that are watching live, this is another live stream, something that I was kind of checking out online last night. My name is Ryan. I'm your host for this morning, having a nice cup of Joe. So it's Amazon Prime Days. There's been some live streams that I've been doing on some really cool things that I have in my home office, things that I use in my videography business. But one of the big things that I'm talking about today that I saw on Prime Days last night, which was exciting for me because it's such a great camera, is the Sony A7IV. So this is my A7IV here. I got this pretty much on launch day. It's been an amazing camera, not just for photos, which is what you think about in the A7 series. However, for my videography business, I typically use that camera specifically for video. And in some cases, I use it as my A cam. Now, the beautiful thing about the A7IV, well, today, let's just double check. It is 20 or 19% off its regular price, and it is interchangeable lenses. It's a full frame camera, but let's get into that in a moment. So to give you some context for YouTube, when I started with my phone, started with the phone that I had at the time. I believe it was like an iPhone 12 Pro Max. And then, or actually, no, not even a Pro Max. It was just an iPhone 12 Pro. And then I upgraded to a camera that I absolutely love and still recommend today if you want to use a camera for YouTube as a beginner. And let's say you want to start with I would say, more affordable option is the Sony ZV-E10. And from the Sony ZV-E10, during the pandemic, obviously, doing a lot of live streaming, doing a lot of meetings through Zoom and WebEx and Microsoft Teams, I wanted something that I didn't have to put a dummy battery in, and I didn't have multiple wires, something that I can plug in right away. And it was the Sony FX30. Now, it's a Super 35 or APS-C camera, so it has a smaller sensor than a full frame, and it's not necessarily a disadvantage. I'm using it right now. This is the Sony FX30 paired with the Sigma 16mm f1.4. Actually, let me just double check on the settings. It is the morning. Had to double check on a few settings. I did feel like I was a little dark on my monitor. So hopefully you can see a better picture or at least a brighter image. So yes, I'm using the Sony FX30. And the beautiful thing is it's USB-C. You plug that into one wire into your computer and it will see the camera as a webcam. And what happened was I started using this and started a media company, started doing some videography work for a lot of different companies, did a few commercials, and it's great. However, I did pair it with its big brother, the Sony FX3. Now, the Sony FX3 is a beautiful camera. It is full frame. Both the Sony FX30 and the Sony FX3 are really tied to their cinema line. So I'd say they are video first, photo second. And that's not to say that they both can't take beautiful images for photography. I personally don't have that skill set. I'm more video centric for my business. So where does the A7IV kind of come into play? So the A7IV was something that I wanted to get to actually build my skills for photography. And that was one of my one of my main purposes. And because the Sony FX30 and the Sony FX3 were pretty much my combo for, at the time, the video work that I was doing. So if you think about some video work, I did some real estate videography, video podcasts that I was filming for a few people, some commercials. And what's beautiful about the full frame, well, the Sony FX30 and the Sony FX3, it was not easy, but easier to match the colors in one video. Now, that brings me to the A7IV. What I found, this thing here is actually a beast when it comes to videos. So when I'm filming videos with the A7IV, I find the images to be a lot more sharper. And that could be possibly because of the 7K sensor that it uses. So the FX30 uses a 6K sensor, which I find is a little bit sharper than the FX3. The FX3 is a 4K sensor. The one thing about the FX3 that makes it so popular and really easy to use in a lot of different scenarios is just its ability in darker scenarios. And you can really see that when you see certain images or the type of day or evening when you want to film. I typically gravitate to the FX3 over the FX30. Advantages between APS-C and full frame obviously is the cost of lenses. Lenses are much cheaper for a smaller sensor camera. And this is a full frame. If I didn't mention that earlier, it's a full frame camera. Now, I'll show you some footage that I did for a sporting event in a little bit, just to show you the kind of the image quality that I was able to get out of the A7IV. So that's 7K oversampling. So when I find that I'm taking shots, if I'm taking huge wide angles and I wanted to and I'm using a prime lens where I can't zoom, so I'll zoom in post, is that I'm not losing that much quality. Now the image, wow, especially for videography, in some cases, if I'm doing a multicam setup, I'll have the FX3 as the A cam, FX30 as the B cam, and I was thinking the A7IV as the B cam. So for instance, something like a video podcast, I'll have the A cam on like let's say it's 2 people for the podcast. I'll have one camera really just filming both the hosts, and then I'll have the FX30 or a B cam for filming one of the hosts and then another camera filming the other host. So I have these 3 angles. And what I found in most cases that I have the A7IV as the A cam, and then I'll have the FX30 and FX3 as the B cams. And it's just because of that, when you're filming, you want the best image for the A cam. So for instance, if the camera is going to be on both the podcasters or the hosts, the hosts, I mean, you want to make sure that is most, if they're being filmed the most, that's going to be your best image. Your B cam is going to be like your second quality. So for right here for live streaming, this is my FX30. This would be my A cam. And if I had a multicam just to show from a different angle, that would be the B cam. The B cam just wouldn't be the majority, hence being the A cam versus B cam. So the A7IV has really great quality. Now, that can also say, hey, Ryan, well, how about skills and lighting and all those type of thing, log footage versus auto, etc. Yes, I think when you go like for like, when you go into, let's say, something like the Sony ZV-E10 on the standard profile, it's good to go, especially for YouTube. You film, you don't need to color grade, and you're good. Now, the FX30, FX3, and even the A7IV, I do shoot in log. And that gives me the ability to really dial in the look that I want for my videos. And the beautiful thing about the A7IV, it is 10-bit color, 4.2.2 or 422. And that really just means that it does retain a lot more color while it's filming. And that's really great because when I'm filming log on the FX30 and the FX3, it helps me really get the same look and feel if I'm filming a multicam setup for all three cameras. Now, with the A7IV, again, it does film in log. It is 7K oversampling. Now for photos, again, what I originally purchased this for, I got to double check the specs here, but I believe it's a 33 megapixel camera. And just double checking. Yeah, it is 33 megapixels. So that's a lot of megapixels for photos. Again, depending on the photos that you're going to be posting. So for me, let's say real estate, and for my personal photos, and even for, let's say, thumbnails for not necessarily this YouTube channel, but other YouTube channels that I help with my other business. Now, something I didn't mention, and one of the beautiful things that you're going to see in this footage, is that this films also in 4K 60 frames per second, which is amazing because when I'm filming things like sports event, I can really slow that down and get a nice smooth image. It's great. The other great thing that I love about Sony cameras, and this isn't, specific to the A7IV, is just the autofocus. And what I'll kind of do is I'll dial in and I'll use autofocus, then I'll go to manual focus depending on the type of shot. So when you're doing videos and doing videography, having like a still talking head, I'm okay just to dial in the focus and then lock it in on manual, and then I'm good to go. Now, when you are doing things where you're moving with the camera in different scenes, and even here, so if I bring in the camera, the autofocus just really dials in really fast, in and out. And obviously it prioritizes, let's say, face focus. So hopefully get a little bit of a blurry background, get a nice bokeh. And the A7IV, what I love most of the time now, because again, I usually take my FX30 and my FX3, is this also gives you that feature where you can put a USB-C and plug this into your computer and it will see it as a webcam. And if you take a look at my first couple live streams, I used the A7IV and plugged it into my computer for live streaming right here on YouTube. And I typically pair that with the Sony 24mm 1.4 GM lens. That's usually like my primary when I'm filming something like a talking head. And what you're going to see in the video that I'll show you with some of the footage is I also have paired this with the Sony GM. Which one is this one? 50mm lens f1.4. And this, I love this lens. This is one of my favorite lenses for wide shots. And this is a 14mm GM lens. And nice to get some ultra wide shots. And the reason why I'm showing you those lenses is because within those lens ranges is what you'll see in the next footage. I believe in the next footage was using the 14mm lens. And depending on how far we go in the video, I get some 50mm shots. And if you take a look at my live streams, you should get a similar image that you see here, or depth of field. Actually better depth of field with that 24mm lens, in my opinion. Now, I love this 16mm lens. I love the FX30. I just love that I have that ability and blessed to have both cameras to use in different scenarios. Okay, so let's just jump in And let's take a look at this footage. And I do have to make sure that I turn down the volume. Actually, it doesn't really matter because this is my footage. And actually, you know what? I'll turn this down. So the beginning of this sequence here is all filmed with the A7IV. Here's just kind of the warm up, and it's a nice sunny day. So the A7IV for videography is not necessarily the best for darker scenarios in low light. And the beautiful thing is, it's a nice sunny day. I really had I actually use an ND filter. I think that was one of the big things. We can talk about ND filters on another segment. But as you can see, focus is great. Getting in and zooming in on different sequences is also one of those things that this is able to do. Now, obviously, editing skills and those type of things is also going to contribute to the quality of the image. However, that being said, this takes in all that 10-bit color and really change the look or give you the flexibility of the image that you want. Now, it is, again, a camera in my arsenal, and so nice to see that it's on the Amazon Prime big deals. So I'm keeping this short this morning, really focused on the A7IV. It's one that I got on launch day and I still use today. So even though there's an A7V that's available that I've been tempted to take a look, and I thought to myself, if I get the A7V, I can sell this, and that should give me really the ultimate package for my current state, for the videography that I do, and what I use it for. It's been a staple in my arsenal, and again, I still use it today. I use it for Zoom calls, Teams, live streams, and again, even with the FX3 and the FX30, in most scenarios in a multicam, I do use it as my A cam. Now, did want to talk about possible cons about the A7IV that have been noted, not necessarily my experience. So one is low light. So low light performance for me has been okay. It's not like I have the ability to go to the FX3 and gravitate to that for low light scenarios. However, it also kind of depends on the lens that you're using. So a lot of the lenses that I have are f1.4, so it takes in a lot more light. So I've never really had a situation when I'm specifically just using the A7IV where I had some issues in low light. Maybe once or twice doing real estate videography, doing a few of those shoots where I'm like, okay, this is questionable, and able to raise everything in post. The other kind of con, which has been noted, but I have updated the firmware on this thing up to its newest update, because when I first got it, there was a lot of questions about overheating. So the FX30 and the FX3, because it's more tiered towards videography, it does have built-in fans to keep it cool. So I never, ever have to worry about the FX30 or the FX3 overheating. Now, for the A7IV and how I use it, I mean, it's a part of my arsenal. But when I'm out in field, it's not like I'm filming 2 or 3 hours at a time continuously. And the only time that I was worried about it is for long video calls for, 1 to 2 hours. And I haven't had an issue. I think the longest that I had this continuously, at least live streaming through Microsoft Teams and WebEx and Zoom, it's probably about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And it hasn't overheated on me, died, and shut off. The only other thing specifically for me for videography is for the I don't have it in here, is the type of memory cards that this takes. So both my FX30 and my FX3, I use the CF cards, the CF2 cards, CF Express Type A cards, and I use 2 of them. And especially when I'm doing things for clients, I always have simultaneously recording, so I have a backup of every footage that I have. Backup, especially, I mean, even for your personal use, if you're doing YouTube videos, it's always nice to have a backup. Now, I don't think this is a con. However, if you are using this specifically for videography and you want to use the fast CF Express Type A cards, this will support 1 CF card slot, and then the second you got to use just the regular SD cards. And again, is that a con? I wouldn't say it's too bad of a con because I haven't had any issues. I will run a CF card slot. Actually, maybe I have it in here. I'll usually run the CF card in the 1 slot to take advantage of that, and then have it record a backup in slot 2 with a regular SD card. So if you want to know more about SD cards and CF Express A cards, I do have a video on it as well on my YouTube channel. You can check that out. However, I think this is a really great deal. And if you are looking for something like an A7IV for photography and also for videos, it is a great camera to get. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Hopefully you can leave some comments for me and give me some feedback in the comments below. It's the A7IV. If something I was a little bit off or something, this is live. There are a few things that may not show up as well as I wanted to showcase the quality, or even when I play back some of the video. Please let me know in the comments. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be doing a lot more of some live stream. I'm really enjoying it. This is Ryan. This is the Elev8 Project, and I'll catch you in the next one.